How a 7-year-old became a hero 30,000 feet in the air. This story is about a brave girl who taught a lesson that you are never too small to do something big. Julia's heart raced with excitement as she and her 7-year-old daughter Marie entered the bustling airport, ready to embark on their flight to Mexico for their first ever Christmas holiday abroad. The air was filled with excitement and Christmas spirit as travelers, eager to get to their destination for the holidays, chatted away and family groups walked around exploring the airport. The mother and daughter were dressed in their most comfortable clothes as they joined other families to wander around the huge, attractive airport that was decorated with Christmas lights and other holiday decorations. Julia and Marie were just as excited by the airport as they were traveling to a warmer climate to spend Christmas with their extended family. It had been a difficult year for the family, and Julia felt that she and her daughter deserved this holiday treat. "I'm so happy, Mommy. I want to see my cousins," exclaimed Marie, her eyes shining with anticipation. "Me too, love. This trip is going to be very special, and we're going to have a lot of fun together as a family," Julia replied, smiling. As they strolled through the airport, Marie's boundless energy manifested in enthusiastic jumps, her excitement infectious. They visited stores, purchased even more souvenirs that they would give to their family in Mexico. Julia and Marie were fully immersed in the spirit of Christmas as they continued to look for the perfect gifts for each member of the extended family. In the middle of the airport was a huge globe that showed all the countries of the world. Marie, with her tiny feet, walked up to the globe and started pointing to random countries on the map, naming them correctly and telling the other travelers interesting facts about that country. Marie was very smart, and her knowledge of geography impressed all the people that listened to her. Like a proud mother, Julia recorded the heartwarming scene, eager to share it with their family. Just then, an airport worker came closer to Marie and her mother, impressed by the little girl's knowledge. "Wow, that is very impressive. Would you like a special sticker?" the airport worker said. Marie nodded eagerly as the lady gave her a sticker. It said, "Global Traveler." Marie looked in amazement as she read the sticker out loud. She was so excited to be a global traveler. She wanted to travel to every country in the world. Julia beamed with gratitude. "Oh, this is very nice of her, darling. Let's put it in our passport. It'll be a perfect addition to our travel memories." Julia was determined to make this trip one of the most memorable trips and ensure that her daughter had the best experience. After navigating the necessary procedures, the mother and daughter entered the boarding area to await their flight. Discovering a small play area for children, Marie couldn't resist the allure of playtime. In the middle of laughter and interaction with other kids, Marie's excitement reached new heights. She made many new friends with other children in the play area, and they all discussed where they were going and what they were going to do. Marie couldn't help but tell all the other children about her family in Mexico. She listed all her cousins in alphabetical order. Finally, the time to board arrived. Julia and Marie, both giddy with excitement, full of snacks in their arms, settled into their seats. Marie, wide-eyed, looking out the plane's window. "Look, Mom, we're going to fly." She couldn't wait till they were in the sky and she could see all the clouds. "That's right, honey. We're going to fly to Mexico. How exciting is that?" Julia affirmed, squeezing Marie's hand affectionately. As the plane slowly taxied and prepared for takeoff, the pilot's announcements confirmed weather conditions and flight details. The stewardesses presented all the safety instructions, while Julia assisted Marie with fastening her seatbelt. Marie listened attentively to all the instructions as she anxiously kicked her feet. The plane began to ascend, and Marie couldn't contain her excitement as the world below grew smaller. "Mom, how can such a big, heavy plane fly?" Marie asked, fascinated as she stared at the wing of the plane. "Well, honey, the plane has a big engine, and you can see those wings," Julia pointed out the window. "They help the plane fly." The plane began to get faster as it zoomed through the runway, lifting off the ground, and soon it was soaring through the sky. Marie, fascinated by everything the plane had to offer, pressed the screen in front of her, looking at all the awesome movies and cartoons she could watch. There were over 100 cartoons here, and she wanted to watch all of them. The stewardess offered drinks and snacks, and Marie chose orange juice and a packet of cookies. Julia, equally excited, recognized that this trip was a culmination of her efforts to create a magical experience for Marie. This year was not easy for both her and her daughter, and she wanted Marie to experience some magic before the year ran out. And what better way to do so than to spend the holidays with your family? Over the months, Julia navigated the challenges of her recent divorce, striving to balance work, single parenthood, and maintaining a sense of normalcy for Marie. She has tried to make sure that the divorce wouldn't affect Marie too much, especially now that she did not have her father living in the house with them. With this trip, Julia wanted Marie to know that she was not alone and had a whole family in Mexico that loved her so much. Julia believed that this was very important for Marie during a difficult time period. "Darling, I know our lives have been a little complicated recently, but I promise you everything will get better soon. This trip is going to be a lot of fun, and we'll be able to spend a lot of time together, and we'll meet your cousins and your aunts and uncles and your grandma. There is this huge mango tree in your grandma's backyard. You're going to have so much fun playing there and picking fruit," Julia asserted, attempting to uplift their spirits. "I know we'll have a lot of fun, even if Dad isn't there. I know you're worried, but everything will be fine," replied Marie, demonstrating a resilience beyond her years. As the plane cruised at a certain altitude, the lights dimmed and the fasten seatbelt sign turned off, signaling that passengers could move around freely. Marie was eager to get out of her seat and explore the plane. She told her mother she needed to go to the bathroom, but she just wanted to walk up and down the plane. Julia helped Marie out of her seat and followed behind her as they made their way to the back of the plane. Marie noticed that there were a lot of people on the plane, and she tried to remember where her seat was. After using the bathroom, the two headed back to their seats. A stewardess passed by, and it was time for their first proper meal of the flight. Julia and Marie had heard that the plane food was not the best, but they were excited to try it nonetheless, as it was part of the experience. When the hostess asked her if she wanted chicken or beef, Marie confidently said beef, and she asked for extra juice as well, without her mother's help. Marie had started to feel more confident and brave on the plane. Marie smiled proudly at her daughter's confidence. However, little did they know that in a matter of hours, their lives would change irrevocably, and Marie's bravery would be put to the ultimate test. A test that no other 7-year-old had ever been through. After a few hours into the flight, Marie, Julia, and the other passengers noticed that the plane had started to feel a bit bumpy. At first it was nothing serious, but soon after, Julia and Marie noticed that the drinks on their table started to shake. The seatbelt sign was switched on, and Marie and Julia quickly obeyed. The cabin crew announced that the passengers please return to their seats and fasten their seatbelts. The tone was calm but firm, and all passengers obliged and did as they told. Soon after, the turbulence got worse, and the passengers could see lightning strikes from the outside of the window. What was once a carefree and chatty flight became somber and quiet as passengers tried not to let the sudden turbulence scare them. But it was no use. Silent fear gripped the air as the plane continued to rattle and shake. "Mom, I'm scared," Marie admitted, squeezing her mother's hands. "It's all right, sweetheart. It's just turbulence. It'll pass soon. Don't worry about it," Julia reassured, covering up her anxiety. Meanwhile, the plane had lost contact with the control tower. This was bad because it meant the pilot was flying blind. They didn't know where they were going. To regain contact with the control tower, the pilot decided to fly above the storm in hopes that they would connect with the control tower and find a safe path to navigate. However, this decision was the catalyst for more scary outcomes. As the plane flew higher into the sky, the lightning struck the plane, and although the plane was built to withstand a lightning strike, the current hit the plane and disrupted the electrical control systems. This led to all the lights in the plane going off, and the passengers were left in complete darkness. Immediately after this happened, the overhead oxygen masks dropped down, and panic ensued. Screams filled the air as people were wondering what would happen. The pilot came in on the speakers and informed everyone to stay calm and put their oxygen masks on. He told them that there was a slight issue, but they were doing everything they could, and the issue would be fixed in no time. In the chaos, the stewardesses worked tirelessly to guide passengers on using the oxygen masks. Despair filled the cabin as passengers consoled themselves and tried to come to terms with the possibility that they would not make it out of this alive. "Please keep calm and stay in your seats. Everyone needs to pay attention. Put on your seatbelts and put on your oxygen masks immediately," the stewardess instructed, attempting to restore order. Amid the turmoil, Marie clutched her mother, trying to make sense of the crisis. "The plane is going to crash and we will die," screamed a desperate woman. Echoes of fear could be heard throughout the cabin. "We're going to die, we're going to die," screamed someone else, their cries intertwined with the collective panic. Marie, frightened but determined, held onto her mother, absorbing the gravity of the situation. Julia, getting all the strength she could, hugged her daughter tightly. "I love you, Marie. No matter what happens, we'll be together," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. This couldn't be how it ended, not after all they'd been through. "I love you too, Mom," Marie replied, tears streaming down her face. If she had to die, she was glad that she had her mom by her side. The pilot, facing a critical situation, addressed the passengers. "We've been struck by lightning, and we are having technical problems. We've lost contact with the tower, but we are working to resolve the problem. Please remain seated and follow the crew's orders," he announced, struggling to maintain a steady voice. Stewardesses moved through the cabin, checking seatbelts and assisting frightened passengers. The atmosphere was heavy with fear, but the crew, trained to handle crises, maintained professionalism. Meanwhile, Julia tried to console Maria, reorganizing the magnitude of their predicament. "Hey, darling, let's imagine how Grandma's house would be, okay? What do you think the color of her house would be? I think blue." "I think green. It's her favorite color," Marie said, trying not to cry. As the plane continued to shake violently, Julia, determined to keep Maria distracted, started telling Maria about her childhood in Mexico and how she and her siblings used to play outside all day until they got dirty and had to clean up outside before they were allowed back in the house. Meanwhile, the pilot and his team continued to battle against the storm, desperately trying to reconnect the plane systems and re-establish contact with the control tower. The stewardesses, their faces reflecting the gravity of the situation, moved with determination. Their professionalism was the only thing keeping all the passengers sane at that moment. The plane's descent became rapid, and the passengers, already terrified, faced the terrifying prospect of a crash. The pilot, with a heavy heart, announced, "We're out of time. We need to do something now." The co-pilot echoed the sentiment, and after some serious effort on both their parts, the pilots managed to stabilize the plane momentarily. The relief could be felt through the whole place once it had stabilized. The turbulence had stopped, but the passengers were still in complete darkness, and the systems were still offline. And the pilots had no connection with the control tower. The crew knew that time was running out. The plane systems needed to be brought back online for any chance of survival. The pilot addressed the crew. "We need to communicate our situation to the tower now." Desperation lingered in the air as the passengers, still shaken, clung to the hope that a solution could be found. The pilot and his team discussed potential solutions to recover the plane systems. A glimmer of hope emerged as a light flickered on the control panel. This indicated that the issue was with the cables connecting the electrical system. The co-pilot proposed a solution that connected the cables in the maintenance compartment. However, there arose another issue. The maintenance compartment could be accessed either from the outside of the plane, which was impossible to do from the small opening from the inside of the plane. The small opening could only be accessed by a small person. "It's an impossible job for any of us to do, but maybe a small child who can listen and follow instructions could do it, right?" the co-pilot said positively. The hostess relayed this situation to the passengers, explaining that they needed a child to access the maintenance compartment. Without thinking about it, Marie raised her hands. "I think I can do it," Marie offered. She thought about the sticker that the lady had given to her earlier. She wanted to be a global traveler and would do anything she could to become one. The stewardess approached the mother and daughter and explained the situation to Maria in terms she could understand. She needed the little girl to connect the correct cables to restart the plane systems. "It's a bit scary, Marie. But you are our only hope. Are you brave enough to try?" the stewardess asked. Marie looked at her mother, who looked at her with an encouraging smile. "You are the bravest person I know, Marie. You can do it." Marie, understanding the gravity of the situation, agreed to help. The stewardess led the mother and daughter to the pilot, who showed Marie where she could enter and connect the cables. The co-pilot, over the radio, would guide Marie through the process. We're all rooting for you, Marie," the stewardess said as the little girl prepared to enter the compartment. Julia, filled with pride and anxiety, hugged her daughter, offering words of encouragement. "You're my precious daughter, and you're brilliant, my love." The co-pilot, with a caring tone, began instructing Marie on how to navigate the cramped compartment and reconnect the cables. Marie, with determination in her eyes, entered the narrow space, armed with a small flashlight provided by the stewardess. The next few minutes were tense, with the cabin filled with prayers, encouraging words and silent cries. Marie, in the confined and dimly lit compartment, listened attentively to the co-pilot's instructions. The fate of everyone on the plane rested in her small hands. "Okay, Marie, do you see the blue wire? Can you plug it into the blue hole for me?" the co-pilot guided patiently. "Yes, I can," Marie replied, her hands trembling. With utmost care, she plugged the wire into the designated spot. The compartment, filled with a myriad of colored cables, posed a daunting challenge for Marie. Despite her fear, she pressed on, guided by the co-pilot's soothing instructions. The stewardess, the passengers, and Julia anxiously waited for the outcome. As Julia navigated the cables, the co-pilot's voice continued to guide her. "You're doing great, Marie. Now, can you plug the red cable into the red hole for me, please?" Marie, though scared, adhered to the instructions. "Yes, sir," she replied. Her small hands meticulously connected the red wire. The tension in the cabin was palpable. The collective breath held as Marie continued her mission. "Now, see the yellow cable. Can you plug it into the yellow hole?" co-pilot asked, acknowledging the girl's courage. With beads of sweat forming on her forehead, Marie replied, "Yes, sir," and carefully connected the yellow cable. Minutes felt like hours as Marie followed the instructions with precision. The cabin, usually filled with the hum of plane engines, was now consumed by the anxious silence of the passengers. "Great job, Marie. Are you ready for the last one? Put the green cable in the green hole and it's done," the co-pilot instructed, his voice carrying the hope shared by everyone on board. Marie, her hands sweaty and heart pounding, approached the final step. The cabin held its breath as she connected the last wire. At that moment, the lights in the plane flickered back to life and the control systems went online. A collective sigh of relief echoed through the cabin. Cheer and applause erupted, and the passengers realized that they had been spared from a tragic fate. The stewardesses, the pilot, and the co-pilot expressed their gratitude over the radio. "Thank you, Marie. You are a brave girl, and thanks to you, we continue our flight safely. You saved us all," the co-pilot's voice resonated throughout the cabin. Marie emerged from the compartment, was met with tearful hugs from her mother. The stewardess, her eyes glistening with emotion, praised her bravery. The passengers, once filled with fear, now regarded Marie as their savior. The pilot, in an emotional voice, extended his gratitude to Marie over the radio. "Thank you, Marie. You are a hero. The crew and all the passengers thank you. You saved us all." The journey continued without further problems. When the plane finally landed in Mexico, the airport buzzed with commotion, with employees and passengers as news of Marie's heroic feat had already spread. The airline, in recognition of her bravery, presented Marie and her mother with free tickets to any destination in the world till Marie turned 18 years old. Marie was excited because this meant she could become a global traveler. Finally, the mother and daughter arrived at their family home in Mexico. They were welcomed with love and open arms, as all of Marie's family cheered her on her bravery and in saving the passengers on the plane. Marie was just happy to finally play with her cousins. She ran around her grandmother's house, as some of her cousins were trying to get mangoes from the tree. Julia beamed at her daughter with pride, a courageous girl whose bravery taught her that even the smallest among us could achieve the most remarkable things.